Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Hubbard, Executive Director of Sustainable San Mateo County, and thank you so much for your interest in applying for the Youth Sustainability Award. We're hosting this webinar to clarify the award application process and answer any questions that you might have so that each of you has the chance to present your accomplishments in the best way possible. I've seen some really amazing work that's being done in San Mateo County by youth related to climate change and social justice and other sustainability issues. And I'm really excited to learn more about what kind of activities you've been involved in through this year's applications. I also want to introduce you to a few of SSMC's board members who are on the call tonight. We have Board Chair Terry Nagel, as well as two of our board members, Laura Larkin and George Kreidem. Today, we'll briefly tell you about SSMC's awards event and our other programs. I'll review the Youth Sustainability Award eligibility and evaluation criteria and go through the application process. So we will have time at the end for questions. And if anything is unclear as we go through this, don't hesitate to raise your hand or put a note in the chat. Terry, if notes come up in the chat or questions, could you bring those to my attention?
I sure will. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So who is SSMC? We're a nonprofit organization that's been active in San Mateo County for more than 30 years. We work to ensure a sustainable future for everyone in the county. And our work addresses all 3 E's of sustainability: the environment, the economy, and social equity issues. We do this by serving as a resource hub, by advocating for sustainable practices, and by inspiring a collective commitment to a more sustainable and resilient community. Now, we drive action through our core programs to inform, inspire, and advocate for change. You guys are all here because of the awards. We've hosted the annual awards event for 25 years. April will be our 26th awards event. During the event, we recognize pioneers in our community, and we've given awards to a range of recipients from community groups, nonprofits, businesses, schools, city departments, individuals, and more. 2 years ago, we received a few youth applications, and we recognized that there's a need for a separate youth sustainability category. And last year was the first year that the Youth Sustainability Award was an official part of the event. The Sustainability Awards are a really big deal. They are a great opportunity for you to be recognized for your work. And the event itself draws nearly 300 people. And these are city and county elected officials, staff, and other community leaders and advocates. And last year, our award ceremony was emceed by Senator Josh Becker. So there's a number of people involved. Gives you great exposure. Our other programs, briefly, include our annual indicators report with data and solutions for San Mateo County on just one topic. Topics range from housing to building electrification, transportation, and even the well-being of children, youth, and families. This year's report on equitable paths to emerging infrastructure was released just last week. We also host webinars and roundtables where experts share insights with the community. We've got an ideas bank. That's a collection of over 80 sustainability programs and policies that have been implemented successfully. And the cities use those to accelerate their progress toward their own sustainability goals. And finally, we have our sustainability dashboard, which tracks key metrics by city to help cities know where they're making progress and how they compare to other cities. So on to the awards application process. You guys have probably seen that we have a website that's dedicated to the eligibility and criteria. I can put the link to this in the chat in case you haven't seen it yet. From there, you can go to the youth application form. I just want to go through a couple of the criteria or the eligibility specifically. So the applicants must be either a resident of San Mateo County or a student within San Mateo County. You have to be in high school, grades 9 through 12. You need to have local impact. So that means that your work is primarily based in San Mateo County, somewhere in the county. And if it's not local, then it needs to have a national or global impact. So, for example, if you were working on with a farming community in Sacramento Valley, you wouldn't be eligible for this award because that's local, but in another location. So really it needs to be either national, global, or local to San Mateo County. And you must submit 2 references. So the references aren't reference letters. They're just the names and contact information for 2 people who know you and are familiar with your work related to the award. Any questions about the eligibility? Feel free to either raise your hand or put a note in the chat.
I just want to add that, last year we had some applications from students saying, oh, my friend Sally would be a great candidate. And then, Sally would say, my friend Steve would be a great candidate. And what we're really looking for are mostly adults who have worked with you and know something about the contributions you've made.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
I don't see any questions.
All right.
But...
here are just some notes about the references. Like Terry said, it is best if the references are adults who are not related to you. So good examples would be a teacher, a supervisor, a manager, or maybe a club leader. And that we are asking that you indicate how you know the reference or how they know you. And we are going to reach out to those people to verify the information in your application and ask them to provide a personal reference. So you don't need to request a letter of recommendation, but you should let them know that they'll be contacted by someone from SSMC. So each application is evaluated on how well the applicant's actions reflect these basic sustainability criteria. So first we look at which of the 3 E's are being addressed by the applicant's work. So is it related to a healthy environment, social equity, green economy, or some combination of those? We also look to see if there's demonstrated measurable impact, and we'll talk a little bit more about what measurable impact is and how to provide quantitative examples. We want to know if this is unique or innovative work. So if you've done something that's really common or that's being done in other schools or locations, that's not as interesting as something that you've actually started on your own. That's new and different. We also want to know if you're partnering with other people and mobilizing other people. Is it something you're doing all by yourself, or is it something that you're working with others on? We'd like to know if there are like resources or funding that you have available that will help ensure that this work will continue. And if you've had any other awards or recognitions for the work you've been doing. Terry, any other thoughts or things to add?
No, we realized that, when you're in high school, you have a limited time to make a strong impact. So we certainly take that into consideration. But yeah, we're really looking for people who are doing something significant that stands out.
So the award is a Google form, and it says there at the top that once you start the form, you won't be able to save it and come back later. But that's because you can't save an incomplete form, but you can submit it and then reopen it and edit it again. We have included a link at the top of the form where you can view, download a PDF of all of the questions that are on it, because the form itself, you can't see all of the questions at once until you start to answer things. So we're hoping that that will make it a little bit easier. I'll paste a link to the form in the chat as well. And the PDF is available here at that bit.ly address, or directly put the direct link in the chat as well. So let me actually switch over to the PDF. Hold on. All right. Can all of you guys see the PDF here on my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, great. So it does summarize the eligibility and evaluation criteria as well. So you've got that there as a reminder. You can nominate somebody else, or you can apply for yourself. Either one is appropriate. Do note, though, if you're nominating someone else, there's a fair amount of detail that goes into this, and it may make more sense to simply notify them, tell them that you think they'd be a good applicant, and send them the link to the form. This is one of those forms where if you're nominating someone else, you go directly to question 3. If you're for yourself, you skip to question 7. You basically need to include your name and basic information. I'll note here also that youth groups can apply for a youth award. If the group is led by adults, then they should apply in the general category, not the youth category. But if you are a youth group that is both led and the participants are all youth, then you can apply in the youth category. That
Right.
clear? And does that make sense to folks? Yeah, seeing some
Nods. I
heads
wanted
nod.
to
Okay.
add too, you're probably familiar with this, but if you see that red asterisk, that star, that means that's a required question and it will force you to put an entry in there. And the reason that we're suggesting people apply themselves is that last year we got some applications that said, oh, you know, my friend would be great and he does this and this, and then you should contact her to find out more. And, you know, that is what we would call an incomplete application. We don't have the time to get all the details. We expect those to be submitted with the application.
Right. So I will just kind of scroll through some of these, and if any questions come up, let me know. So, you know, first there was are you a group? Give us the name, first name, last name, primary contact if it's a group, not a required question. Email address and phone number, mailing address, where you go to school, and if it's a group, listing all of the schools for members, grade, and then, if appropriate, your website and social media. These are not required fields, and if you don't have one that's related to your work, then you don't need to provide it. Reference 1 and 2. It doesn't say on this form, I think this was an earlier version, but we are also asking for a note about how you know those references. So are they teachers or something else? And then how long have you been dedicated to sustainability? What are your key accomplishments? And I'll note here that all of the questions have a 1,500 word limit.
Character.
Or excuse me, character.
Yeah.
You're not expected to write college level essays for these. The expectation is that you're being concise and sticking to the about 200 words per response unless otherwise noted. So key accomplishments, particularly as they relate to the environment, economy, and social equity. As your work results in any permanent systemic change. So, you know, a good example of this might be if you had started a shoe recycling program at your high school gym and that it was something that would carry on for many years and that it's, you know, providing an opportunity for students to recycle old shoes rather than putting them into the landfill. So, you know, that might be something that you include as an ongoing change. Have you mobilized others to act? And, you know, describe how you quantify or measure these accomplishments. I do have some examples of that, but let's look at, a couple of these other questions and see if you guys have any questions about how you might answer them. What is the scope of your work? Are you working on campus, throughout your city, throughout the school district, or through multiple towns? Are you a pioneer in promoting sustainability? So are you doing something that's new that you haven't seen done locally otherwise? And then again, have you received any awards or recognition? How have others benefited from your work? So, what are the yeah, what are the ways that other people are benefiting from your work, either financially or because of reduced carbon emissions or socially? Um, and do you expect to continue doing this work? So is it something that you can do as you um, move into a different grade or go into college? I know a lot of you guys are at that stage. Laura, I see you've got your hand raised. Did you have a question or a comment?
I wanted to make sure you saw Sophia had a question in the chat. She will be 18 by April, which is when the awards are being held. Should she
Mhm.
apply in the youth or the general category? That was her question.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. If you are still in high school, you are eligible to apply for the youth category, and that's likely going to be more appropriate. I think it's challenging for youth to compete with adults in these areas because many of the adults who apply for our awards have been working in sustainability for decades, or who have had businesses or organizations that are really well established. Um, so it's not age dependent as much as it is grade dependent. Does that answer your question, Sophia? And all right. So Brandon is asking, what would be a good example of mobilizing others to act? So we could go back to the shoe recycling example that I threw out there before, where it's not just you who's taking your old shoes and making sure that they get recycled and repurposed appropriately. If you are asking other people in your school to do that and they're following through and doing something that they wouldn't do otherwise, that's an example of mobilizing others to act. Terry, might you have another one?
Well, just I was just pondering Sophia's response. She says, my sustainability work isn't as extensive as I'm sure some others are. And I would still encourage you to apply, Sophia. We have no idea what kind of applications we're going to get. And I think it's really important that you tell us about your project. We'd love to know that. And hopefully we can publicize to others the fact that lots of youths are doing wonderful things in this county. That was one of our big discoveries, was the amazing things that young people are doing in our county. It's very, very promising and hopeful. So your question was other examples of involving
Mobilizing others.
mobilizing others. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting. I've seen at one particular high school, at least 3 new environmental clubs start each year, which were started by 1 or 2 people and did one thing and did not involve other people. And I'm thinking, wow, is this just because they want to put this on their college applications, So I think the real name of the game is, what kind of influence are you having? What kind of impact are you having on your community? And it's great if one person does something like recycle, but if you can get a whole bunch of other people to recycle, that makes a much bigger impact. And that's, I think, the kind of thing that we're looking for.
Right.
And Laura, feel free to jump in here too, because you've certainly, oh, I don't know if she's still on the chat. I guess she took off. Anyway, Laura
No,
also,
Laura's still here.
Laura, feel free to jump in if you want to say something. I don't see her
Yeah.
actually. Okay.
Let's see. So there's what do you hope to accomplish in the future? Also one of the things, and one of the questions. And if you are applying for a group, there's just a few other questions to respond to, like the mission of the group. If you have a physical location, whether there's any, environmental footprint or effort to reduce your environmental footprint, whether you have partnerships with other groups or schools. How do you involve the group members in decision making? And does the group reflect the diversity of San Mateo County? Or how you address those issues. And then finally, there's just this one open field that says, if there's anything else that you'd like for us to know about you as a candidate, you have the chance to fill it in there. So any other questions about the form or what needs to get filled out?
Yeah, and I would think, those questions about if you have a physical location, we're not talking about your house, okay? We're talking
Yeah,
about,
it's like
there
if
are
you're
some, larger groups that may have their own physical building.
or a meeting space.
Yeah.
Siddharth, did you have a question?
Hi, yes. It was just about the additional information section. Are we allowed to put like links to like speeches we've given or like articles in that section, or is it just for writing specifically?
You could definitely put links and articles if you'd like.
Okay,
Not
thank
a
you.
problem. Yeah. Great idea. I did also want to give you guys a couple of examples of measurable impact. See if this helps clarify, because I think last year when we were reading through the applications, what we realized is that it wasn't a specific question and that those measurable impacts weren't detailed by many of the youth. So, one example is, I planted 24 trees in 2022, 35 in 2023, and 45 so far in 2024. And then comment on what the impact of that kind of activity is. Each tree has the potential to sequester nearly 50 pounds of CO2 annually for a total impact of nearly 5,000 pounds per year. So that's one that activity can be quantified, like the number of things that you've done and their environmental impact. Another is I developed a recycling presentation for first through third graders and presented in 4 classes during a school year, reaching 120 students and their families, approximately 500 community members total. So it's okay to make some estimates here. We don't expect you to provide sign-in sheets and proof of attendance or anything like that. It's really just how many people do you think you reach through your activities? And then the third example is for a group. Together, our 4 group members attended 12 city council meetings in 4 cities, reaching approximately 20 city council members, 12 staff members, and 150 community members with our message about the importance of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So, do you have any questions about the kinds of projects you've been working on and how you might quantify them? Sometimes they're hard to quantify.
That's true. Or any other questions for that matter. We're happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, George, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I was just wondering if somebody that's not a senior and maybe has started something, but it's not fully developed yet, should they apply anyway this year, or should they wait until maybe next year when it's more developed? Like, can they apply this year and then again next year for the same thing?
Yes, yes and yes. I welcome their application this year. It would be great for them to say what the potential for their activities are and what they plan to do in subsequent years. Anybody who does not win this year is eligible to apply next year as long as they're still in high school.
Right, and one more thing I think I learned is that some of the students who applied last year consulted with their teachers on their applications, and you're perfectly welcome to do that. They may give you some tips on applying as well, what would make an effective application.
That is a great suggestion.
Laura, can you think of anything else we've forgotten? I'm trying to.
I'm not thinking of anything you've forgotten, but, and if you disagree, I would also tell them, you know, even though there is a character limit, that doesn't mean you need to use all of those characters. If you
Oh,
can be
true.
concise. The other
Ah.
thing is, make sure you answer I know you have to answer the required questions, but don't say something like, didn't apply to me, or, I mean, somehow you need to answer the question. I've read a lot of applications for other things where the person didn't answer, or they answered a different question. They didn't answer the question being asked. So my only thing would be, concise is good. Don't feel you have to, you know, that we're looking for a, you know, 5-paragraph essay. We're not. And make sure you answer the question.
Yeah.
Right.
I did see Siddharth had also added another question to the chat. He asked, do we give greater weight to national or state recognition compared to local or county recognition, or is it more about the work itself? So we are an organization called Sustainable San Mateo County. So we are encouraging local applicants, and we don't expect very many local students or adults, for that matter, to be working on projects that are of national or state significance or global significance. So I would say that national and global impact is not necessarily an advantage in this application process.
Right. What we're all about is making San Mateo County more sustainable. And you'll see that one of the questions talks about the 3 E's of sustainability. That's the environment, the economy, and social equity. There's the E in equity. So if you can demonstrate what you do in each of those areas, that's to your advantage as well. Don't see any other questions, but certainly if you have additional questions, you can reach us at info@sustainablesanmateo.org. Just go to our website. You'll also find that it's easy to contact us through the website, and we'd be happy to answer any more questions you have.
Yes, and I think that email address is also part of the form. So as long as you've got those links, you'll be able to get back to us. And yeah, the deadline is November 11th. So you've got a couple of weeks to get those forms in. Plenty of time for maybe getting an instructor to review your work before it gets submitted.
Yeah, and don't wait till the last minute to ask your references. That's another thing I think a lot of young people learn when they're doing college applications, because a lot of them get many, many requests and have a limit. So
yeah, so this one, they're not supplying a written letter,
Right.
so it's not as hard for them. You can make sure that that's clear, that
Right.
We will be reaching out though, and expecting a response. So they'll need to spend at least that much time.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I think that's it. If you guys don't have any other questions, then we'll wrap it up. We will follow up by sending a link to the recording, which we'll post on YouTube. And like Terry said, if you have any questions, reach out to us at info@sustainablesanmateo.org.
And good luck.
Great.
Thank
Thank you so much
you.
for being here tonight.